In this video, I'm going to go over multiplying square roots. And again, we'll be using the product property, but we'll be using it from the other point of view. In the previous videos, we started with the square root of a product and rewrote it as the product of square roots. In this video, we are going to start with the product of square roots and rewrite it as the square root of a product. Now, if you haven't watched the previous videos, which took this point of view, you've got to do that first, because we'll be using these ideas to work on these problems today. Here's an example. Say I start with this product. The product property says that if I choose to think of this product of square roots as the square root of a single product, that is 6 times 12 is 72, that I can do that. Now, the reason I'd want to is, looking at 72, the hope would be that I would think of the factorization as 36 times 2. Using our previous ideas, I can then rewrite the product and simplify to 6 roots of 2. Of course, the problem becomes most people don't look at 72 and see 36 and 2. So what can we do then? And the answer is we go back and use prime factoring, and it'll be a very easy process. With prime factorization, the square root of 6 will be square root of 2 times 3. The square root of 12 would be a couple of 2's and a 3. And after I combine them using the product property, I could see that I'll have a factor of 4 and one of 9, and one factor of 2 that remains. So I have a factor of 4 times a factor of 9 times one more factor of 2. Using our previous ideas, I can rewrite this as 3 factors. And of course, square root of 4 is a 2, square root of 9 is a 3, and I end up again with 6 roots of 2. And again, if you're not comfortable with this, you have to go back and look at the other videos, because that's what we did in those videos. See if you can do this problem using prime factorization and the product property. We'd think of 8 as 3 factors of 2, and 10 as a 2 and a 5. After combining as a single radicand, there's a couple of points of view you can take. One point of view would be to see a couple factors of 4 and one of 5, and then using the product property and simplifying, I would get 4 roots of 5. The other point of view would be to say, oh, I notice a 16 and a 5. So here would be my factorization, and after using the product property, I would again get 4 roots of 5. One approach isn't any better than the other, they're both fine. Try this one. Here are my prime factorizations. I'd combine them as a single radicand. I have a factor of 4, and a factor of 25, and a factor of 3. And after using the product property and simplifying, I'll get 10 roots of 3. Try this one. Here's our prime factorizations. And now I'll use the product property. And I'll notice there's a factor of 4 and 9 and 17. And using our previous ideas with the product property and multiplying, I get negative 12 roots of 17. Here's one with 3 factors. Well, here's the factorizations. Here's the single radicand. Now, I don't know about you, but they're starting to get to be a lot of factors here. So here's one technique you can use. For instance, when I look at this, I notice first that there's a factor of 4. And I might cross out a couple of 2's, because there's my factor of 4. I notice there's a factor of 9. And then I might cross out my 3's. And I notice there's a 49. And I notice after those, I still have one more factor of 2 left. I'd now use the product property and simplify and get 42 roots of 2. And here's the last one. Here's my factorizations. Here's my single radicand after I use the product property. I've got a couple of 2's to give me a 4, and a couple of 3's to give me a 9, and a couple of 5's to give me a 25, and a couple of 7's to give me a 49, and I've used all my factors. What that implies is, after using the product property, simplifying, and multiplying, I'll just get 210. Sometimes students wonder, should there be a square root of 1? Even if there was, the square root of 1 is 1, and 210 times 1 is just 210, so there really isn't any reason to include it. Well, I hope this video has helped with any questions you had about how to multiply square roots.